Georgia Air white flag right here. Georgia's your leader. George Martin is going to take the Kenman Classic. What a race. Wow.
Welcome to RC Underground Radio.
We're racing toy cars here.
If you've been looking for a podcast that talks about One RC tracks, suppliers, and events, then you're in the right place.
I haven't changed my underwear since the Kenman. I'm not kidding.
I'm
not kidding. It's the same.
I didn't want to go there.
It's this.
And we're glad you're here. Now, here are your hosts, Ryan Retzloff and David Brinkmann.
I am a BB in a boxcar.
All right, so in this segment of RC Underground Radio, we are in, we're just saying, we are in Kenman royalty. We got the inaugural Kenman winner, Ryan, and then we have the first annual Kenman winner. He's joining us tonight. He just won last weekend. George Maury. George, you made it to victory lane at the Underground.
Oh, it's thanks. It's a great feeling. It's, culmination of a lot of effort and work, and just so much fun to finally have be competitive and have it. I was just hoping to be in for a shot at the win, not to actually come away with it. It's just blowing my mind here.
You earned it. I would say if there's anybody at that track that works as hard as you do on that car and really gets just investing time into it, right? It's you, and how deserving. It's just so cool. And I wasn't there due to some family stuff, but to see it pop up on Facebook that you had won, I just had the biggest smile on my face, because I mean, it's good to see. You've been there since day one, and have just been working, and you finally did it, and you won at, in my opinion, the biggest race at the Underground. So that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. It was, I felt like, after the Midwestern, I really was pretty down, because I felt like I wasn't as competitive as I wanted to be. And it took me a day to recover and kind of regroup and think about some things, and, to try on the setup, and then, what about this? What about that? And sure enough, when I got to the track, it was working, and it was working really well. It was working, as good as it's ever worked. So, I didn't feel like, I was dominant, which I'm not trying to be. I was talking to Dave earlier. I didn't win either of my heat races. I don't think I lost the C main on the last lap, I think. And I didn't win anything until the B main, and I was transferring right through the C to the B to the A. So, I'll take it though. Because, it was definitely a little bit of luck, but, I felt like I still had to be there. I had to be there. So.
Yeah, it was much deserved. If anybody can see the amount of effort that you put in, it rivals everybody. You put in the effort, and then you think about the setup on the car and what it's doing and all of that. And that's what I appreciate most too, is just seeing you come with new setups. That car has improved race over race over race, and it's just getting to, you've gotten to the point now where it's good to go. You're locked in. You can pull a Saucony and just put it in the box and leave it alone, and next race come out and win that one too.
I don't know. I got some ideas for next time. So
George is never going to stand on the side. He's going to keep working it.
Until I can. One thing I keep thinking about is that track record that Murph Dog put out there, and it's on the board right there. Right in the pits. 2.32, and I'm like, man, that was really tough. But, obviously we all saw him do it, so we know it's possible. So that's kind of what I'm shooting for. Hopefully one day we'll see.
You were in the 2.4s. That's getting close.
Yeah, close. Yeah. But, boy, there's such a big difference between a 2.4 and a 2.3. Holy cow. It's
you can do that consistently too, right? I mean, that's the big part of it. You know, we talk about that so much, and that's where you've got it going on. Is you are very consistent, and I think when you put together a car that handles correctly and works for your driving style, yeah, it's just an absolute lethal combination, and you know, you really displayed that this past race.
Yeah, thanks. It's something I worked on, you know, in the off season when you know, we finished last season, you know, I felt like, you know, a little bit like, you know, I feel like I wanted to be more consistent. It's something I really wanted to work on and practice, and just, you know, not, you every time I hit the wall, it's like, yeah, you cringe, and it's like, oh, you know, why am I doing that? You know, but it just takes a little bit of repetition and practice, and you know, you do get better. It's possible.
Well, you had to really be proud too, because that was not, you know, a lay down field. We had some new racers there. We had Aaron back.
That's right.
Joe was phenomenal. Russ started bringing that car around. I mean, he
Steve
did some laps, and then you had Steve back there. And I mean, I can't even imagine moving forward. Then, you know, Rye can make some more races. And, I know Nick Ciccone had a little issue, and the name was Brinkman, and it wasn't Kyle. It was me. I got into him. I got all over him in the B main, and I literally ended up pulling the car off because I was just, you know, you like to be called a bullet when you're quick. No, I was a sniper is what I was. So I'm like, no, I probably hung in there a little longer than I should have. I stayed in there for 60 laps, and I think I just put him so far back. I literally got into him 4 times. So he probably lost 8 laps, and I think he missed by going in by 5. So he said, no, you had nothing to do with it. But no, I did. I raised my hand on that one and said, no, that was all me, Nick, and I apologize. So he's going to come back at the next one, and he's going to be gunning. And man, I was just, you know, watching some of that video, there's barely any corner marshal work. You know, there was just some real precision moves, some real sportsman-like moves that like Joe and Russ and you were making, and Aaron. I mean, just think of that right there. Just those 4 names, you know, and Kyle was running a good race. I mean, for not racing these cars and having a wedding the night before, he was right in the mix there for a while during the main, and just had a freak thing. Ryan called it. There's like a pin in there. And, that's what jammed up in the rear end of the car. Just a freak thing. So, but I mean, you got, you know, even Kyle stepped out after 11 laps. So the 4 of you with Steve and Aaron and you and Joe, and man, it was just some incredible racing.
It really was. It was such a close field. I mean, we were all so evenly. Everybody was really evenly matched. There was not, you know, there were a couple times where I felt like, okay, things settled down. I can like kind of focus on, you know, being consistent, you know, not hitting the walls and stuff, and maybe taking it just go down to like 98% instead of 100%. I couldn't do that for more than a couple laps. Somebody's coming up behind me, and I'm like, I can't, I gotta hustle.
Yeah,
I can't relax.
Yeah, we saw that definitely in the C main, right? I mean, you had just one little bobble, and those guys clipped off 2 quick laps, and it happened all so fast, and it's like, oh my gosh, with 1 to go, the 3 of you are all on the lead lap, and here comes Joe, and he's snookered you and just beat you to the line coming off a 4. It was a great race. Yeah,
I ended up going a little bit wide, and he got inside me, and there was nothing I could do.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was a great race. And then you had Russ right there. Russ was going into 3 as you guys were coming off a 4, and that was for the transfer.
Yeah. Yeah, Russ, I mean, how about Russ? I mean, he came there, and, you know, I don't know if you saw his car in practice, but it was nowhere.
Yeah.
He was first time at the RC Underground, asking me, set up questions. So I, gave him some advice and stuff. And he had that car humming in the mains. I mean, he was really good. By the mains, he was the only other car other than you that had turned a 2.4 all day. Wow. Yeah, I believe it. Because he kept coming like a freight train, Yeah. But, just an awesome field. And, it just makes it all the more sweeter. You end up with the victory. And, it's a really great feeling. I think I'm still floating.
Yeah.
Still in a good mood from it. So, but yeah, it was just such a great time, so much fun, and hoping to repeat it at some point soon.
Yeah, well, I know Kenman's up there smiling. Two of his faves, have won that race, so he'd definitely be proud and happy that his likeness is hanging out at work at Ryan's place and now hanging out at your house. I'm sure he'd be super proud, and I couldn't be happier myself for the way everything turned out.
Yeah, thanks, David. I mean, it's an honor. It's your dad was really, especially in the early days, right? I mean, I wasn't there in the very beginning, but even the first few years I was there, I mean, having your dad there was just, it just made it so much better to be able to rely on somebody, have an adult. There all, I don't know if we want to get into it. There's all sorts of situations. Like, I'll just mention one. We raced. There was like in the back of a schoolyard, right? Like a bus turnaround. And I remember going there, and cops came and said, hey, you can't be here. And we're like, oh, okay, and your dad came up and said, oh, let me go talk to that guy. None of us would have done that. We're just,
Right.
Right. And it's just, he enabled us, he enabled it for us to be able to race in so many situations like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great.
And, something I want to touch on is, we are all, certainly competitive. And I think that's part of one of the reasons why we race is to get that competitive, that itch, scratch that itch, if you will. But I think what is fantastic about you, George, and I think something should be noted for everyone that races is that, you definitely have talent. You work on your car, but let's face it, it was a year had gone and you hadn't even won a race. But you hung in there. You had fun. I mean, who doesn't get frustrated if they don't make a main or if, they get taken out with 5 to go or whatever? It happens, but you continuously had fun. You continued to move forward, work on your car, commit yourself to getting better. And I think that's something that people need to take note of is just go have fun. At the end of the day, you were just all hanging out with some friends. We were geeking out for a few hours every race and having a good time. And that was really important. But to see you put it all together and finally get that W, the monkey's off your back now. Now it's like, now you're going for it. We should consider you the next Michael Schumacher of 1RC racing. So like now we're going to come to expect it more out of George Murray. So, it's something I wanted to make a good point of is that, or a big point of is that you hung in there. Sure, you get frustrated. You mentioned that, but you kept going. You didn't stop and say, forget this. You looked at the bigger picture, and that was the fellowship and hanging out with buddies, and you just continually strive to get better. So I just kudos to you on that. And I knew your day was coming. So, just so awesome to see you in there in victory lane and getting her done. And, the fact that you had to come from the bottom too. That's not an easy thing to do. That's putting a lot of laps on your car and a lot on your tires too. So I wanted to ask you about this because I wasn't there. So I'm going to pick your brain a little bit.
Sure.
So we talked about tires glazing, in our previous winner, Colton, right?
Yep.
Dalton.
Yeah. Dalton.
Yeah.
Was it O-N? I knew I was going to get it, but, Dalton was actually just sanding his tires and not using any sauce. Is that a technique that you had started to adopt, or did you just stick to your guns and use the sauce on your tires?
I did both. Okay. I did break out the sandpaper, and between runs, I would sand those tires. I think it wasn't until I don't know which of the mains I don't know if it was between the C and the B or the B and the or before the seat, I didn't put sauce on the tires, but every other run, yeah, I would put sauce on the tires. And the track had, we like to say, rubbered up, right? So much, it gotten so much traction. I put on a set of, let me back up a little bit. At the last race, before the last race, I thought that I could control the traction roll by the amount of sauce we put on the right front, like halfway or a quarter of the way or whatever. And after the race, I'm like, no, that's not going to work. I really got to put glue on that tread block pattern, right? Either the first row or the second or the third row. So I got a few tires together, with different widths of glue on them. And then I found the original set of tires that came with the car, the mediums, right? Not the softs. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, okay, these are the ones I'll just put three, glue on all three, like the first three rows of block, the most glue, so like mm-hmm. if the track really rubbers up, which I think, that'll never happen, I'll use these tires. Well, sure enough, yeah, you get to the, the features and it's like, man, I really got to put these tires on. The car is traction rolling even, with what I have. So those are the tires I ran on both sides of the car. I actually ran glue on the right front tire and on the left front tire. And it was, there was so much traction. You still had to either, do the bottom feeding like Aaron was doing, go really, really carefully, or just take a really wide line and, hope you don't, have too much traction. Even as it was, I was just gonna say real quick, as it was, I mean, there were a few times where the car was like teetering, going through the turn, just, almost tipping over, but not quite.
So I see you smiling there, Ryan. So
yeah, because didn't I tell you, Dave? Like, so we were talking about earlier, Dave and I just having an offline conversation about some of the tricks I've been utilizing to try and gain more speed out of the car, and we talked about some of the stuff you do, and I was like, I don't have to tell George anything. He just figures this stuff out on his own. He's smart enough, and so that's why I got a big kick when you're talking about the tires. And that's what I love about you. An analytical guy going, okay, here's what's happening. How do I prevent that? And it was probably half an hour worth of work on your end and very little investment, but you just, okay, I'm going to glue these tires up and I'm going to try this, right? This is the stuff I absolutely love hearing about because, I'm very much that way. I just don't have the time sometimes to get it done. But it just put a smile on my face because I'm thinking, oh, that's what I would have done too, and mm-hmm. I just love hearing those stories of how you use your noodle to make it all work. So that's awesome, Yeah.
I don't come up with it right away. Yeah. I don't come up with it right away, but I mean, just that idea, just that thought alone just took me I got to digest. I got to it takes me probably 24 hours, after, run into a problem. I'm like, how am I going to fix that? How am I going to do this? It could be a day, it could be 2, it could be 3 days later before I'm like, oh yeah, I know what I can try.
Yeah.
So,
and you did it.
But there's something else that must be working on because the handling, a lot of that stuff is handling related, but you have gotten considerably faster too. And that was, I think, the missing component. And I know you've been, obviously everything in the rule book. I'm not going there. I'm just saying, you didn't have an issue with your driving. Everybody's been challenged with trying to figure out, from a handling perspective, especially having a strategy that needs to change as the track changes. So you're solving that. But the car has gotten considerably faster too. Obviously, now you're running 2.4s. So not asking to give away any secrets, but you have to be pleased with the performance of the car now.
Yes. It kind of all started snowballing after the Oval Kings race last year with Murph Dog. And he posted that setup sheet of his. And it took me a while to look at that and figure out, because I was wondering what everyone else was wondering. We watched that car in that race, and he's running 2.4s, no problem. He ran, qualified with a 2.32. And you look at that car, and it's like lifting up the left front tire in the turn, And you keep thinking to yourself, how is that car making the turn, basically steering with one tire? And just looking at the setup and trying to figure out, obviously he's got the rear steer, he's got the really soft, right rear on there. I'm like, and I didn't think to try it right away. I had to go down some other paths that, didn't work first, just the way my brain works. But eventually I came back around to it, and I did try that setup. I ended up lowering it though, like where his car is like, he's got the stock front springs in there and the longer springs in the back. Ryan, I've gone your route. I've done the shorter springs. Mm-hmm. And for me anyway, that seems like it makes for a better handling car, more consistent, more flat, going through the turns and stuff. So
yeah, that's where I'm actually kind of tempted to give you, well, we'll see. If you're a lot quicker than me, I won't do it, but that's where, like give you my scales so you can figure out where your wedge is at in the car. I know that most people would be like, wait, you're scaling a 1RC car, but yeah, figuring out cross weight is extremely important. But no, I think there's a secret. Oh, I shouldn't say a secret, but I think we found something, with going to the coilovers in the front, getting that right front to just dig in and bite. And, I ran into some issues with it where I was a little too soft, right? In that front, and causing that right front to really just dig in. And that's where I was getting some traction roll. But no, I think there's something to it. And, and that's the cool thing is you'll share, you'll give your setup to anybody. And so will I. And, you and I kind of talked about it, and, you'd done some cool, you kind of copied that, but you certainly improved on it because there's no way I can turn a 2.4 consistently. So, but no, that's just awesome. And I just love hearing how you go through this process and just put the work in, because you do. And that's why that's why you're becoming so successful at this, is you're just putting the work in and having fun doing it. And, I love hearing that. I love where there's a problem, finding a solution. I just love that part, and you're great at it, buddy.
Thanks. Yeah, it's one of the things that I was never really good at figuring out a setup throughout my whole career. I mean, I always felt like I drove better than I could set up a car, and I wasn't. I felt like I was okay driving, but just trying to find a good starting setup was always a challenge,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could tell you too. I know you enjoy getting into that. Murphy's chassis setup guide. If you haven't read it, or
yeah.
See, so understanding what changes do, I think is so important, and that's part of the awesome thing about the 1RC cars is small little changes can make big effects on how that car handles, right? You're a prime example of that. So I'm glad you finally got it figured out, man. It's just so neat to see you just get up there. And I mean, it's one thing to go set fast time, start up, on the knob and all of that stuff. But I think it's just so cool when you race your way up, right? Saccone did. I forget which race that was.
Midwestern last year.
The Midwestern, yeah. I mean, it's just neat to see that. And then, we've got the live RC, which Dave set up, so that now we can go back and actually look at those lap times and check the consistency and look more at that in our median times and all of that cool data that you and I love. Having that is a lot of fun. And so I'm sure you've probably dove into it a little bit, but the live RC thing is really neat.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. Having it is fantastic. Being able to, I mean, not just like, watch it live, which obviously if you're racing, you're not watching it, you're not watching it on live RC, but just being able to go back and see what the lap times were. And also I kind of like just took to like kind of looking at the total time. Like, most of our heat races are 50 laps. I'm just taking those 50 lap times, the time for 50 lap heats, and comparing them to like, what Matt Murphy ran or what Mark Sweeney ran, and just saying, oh, okay, I'm getting pretty close. Or, they're still better. I still need to, come up with a few more seconds here in a 50 lap run. So yeah, it's awesome.
That's neat. Now, here comes a really interesting question. I want you to think about this race that we've got coming up. Which one is the one where we've got the road course?
That's
Holiday Havoc.
Yeah.
Holiday Havoc. What are you going to do setup wise to make that one right turn? Are you just going to wing it? Are you going to? I'm asking for a friend. I'm not taking any notes. I don't have a notebook or a pen in my. I don't have a pen in my hand. What are you going to do, George? What do you think?
I was in the preview show for the Midwestern. We kind of talked about this a little bit, but there's 4 left turns and 1 right turn. I'm thinking just stick with the oval setup and see what happens. I mean, you might make up so much time in those left-hand turns that I mean, obviously, if you're rolling, if you're traction rolling now and going to the right, then obviously you got to do something. But and the other thing too might be the motor timing. If you're having shorter straights now that you got to accelerate out of, maybe it makes sense to bump the motor timing down to even 0 or something. Yeah,
maybe throw a little bit more drag brake in it.
Yeah.
Maybe
Depends
a little bit, kind of a combination of both. Okay.
Depending on how sharp the turns are. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks to Mari, now my wheels are turning.
Well, I'll tell you what, George, we're going to let you go. I know you're on vacation.
Right.
You are in the land of Unzer. You're in Albuquerque, New Mexico, I believe you said.
Nice. Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. But no, we appreciate you taking some time jumping on here like this while you're on vacation. So,
was that part of the prize for winning the Kenman? You get a free vacation to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Was that?
Didn't you know?
Dag nabbit. I would have. Forget the family stuff, honey. I'm going to try and win us a vacation. No. Hey, George. Yeah. Just to echo what Dave's saying, thank you so much for taking the time. Again,
absolutely.
Very deserving. Very deserving. You've worked your tail off, but you've remained upbeat throughout everything, and just to overcome all of the, I guess for lack of a better term, not making it to the show sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's so exciting to see you win. Couldn't happen to a better guy.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. And yeah, it's a great feeling, and hoping it continues.
You've been listening to RC Underground Radio. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, drop us a line at rcuradio@gmail.com. We're curious to know, what do you like? What don't you like? Who would you like us to talk to?
Sounded really weird.
It was weird, but you know what I meant. We're talking about racing, so...
Okay.
You can find us on Spotify, Facebook, and YouTube. See you next time on the RC Underground Radio Podcast.
I am a BB in a boxcar.